We're fresh off of NFL Week 14. We're rolling directly into NFL Week 15. We had about 6 teams that were on bye last week. This week, we have no teams that are on bye. So we're jam-packed with a full slate of big games that we want to discuss. Lots of divisional implications, lots of playoff implications that are riding on some of these games that we'll kind of touch on as we move forward. But for those of you who do not know us, we are Statletics. We love walking through the big games each week in the NFL regular season. We really rely on our model projections and the analytics for each game, trying to discern who we think can win these games and why. So at the end of the day, we're just a couple dudes that love talking balls. So we appreciate you guys joining us for this show. If there's a particular matchup you want to see, we have them discretized on our YouTube page, or you can see them on the YouTube slider below. So just scroll and find the game that you want to see. But before we do that, Beach, how we doing, bro?
I'm good, buddy. The playoffs are shaping up nicely. Seems like it looks like most of the spots are kind of filled. We'll have to see how the next couple weeks go, but
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm ready to get into this week. Should be a good one.
I am really excited. We have a couple divisions that is just going to be a rat race for the top of the division, and then of course the wild card scene is messy, beautifully messy. So a lot of exciting teams that we're going to touch on, a lot of exciting games, more games than we usually talk about on this particular show. So let's go ahead and jump directly into it. Bills at Lions. This is potentially a Super Bowl preview here. I mean, what a beautiful game this week. Bills coming off of a really, really tough loss. Beautiful game to watch. That was absolutely insane. The Bills versus the Rams last week. That was one of the, if not the most fun games this year that we've seen out of the Bills and the Rams last week. So coming off of a tough loss, but immaculate performance by Josh Allen and the Bills. He had 6 total touchdowns in that game. Lions are coming off of a Thursday night game, so they had an extended mini bye, let's call it. So Lions are hosting the Bills in Detroit. Lions -2. The total is the highest on the slate by far, 54.5 points. The model has this shaped up around 23-26. So similar point spread, more in favor of the Lions by about a point compared to Vegas, and a little bit lower totaled. So we'll dive into that here. But Beach, we're both on the Lions on this game. So I want to break into that, but I'm not confident that the Lions are going to win this game. I do like this matchup for them, solely because I think they're going to try and play the same game that they played against the Packers last week. They love to command the ball on the offensive side and run the clock out, juice the game as much as they can, and try and keep the ball out of the other team's hands. And so I think that's going to be the same game plan. Will it work? I don't know. Similar to what we talked about last week with the Packers, we said it'll really come down to just who has the ball last, and that absolutely could be the case for this particular game. But, man, it seems like Josh Allen is unstoppable. So, Beach, we're both on the lines here, but, this very well could be a Bills win. And, in fact, I can also make a case where the Bills could win handily. The last 2 games out of the Lions, if you go back 2 weeks where we saw better game management, better clock management out of the Bears, Bears are winning that game at Detroit. So especially with how injury-riddled this Lions defense is, how concerning is that for you if you're the Lions here? And, obviously you took the Lions to win, but are you concerned about the injuries, or do you think they can still perform and maybe contain Josh Allen even just in the slightest?
Yeah, well, the obvious thing is to keep it out of Superman's hands, like you were saying. I mean, Josh Allen he's going to win MVP. He has to. I mean, he's the most incredible player. And the way that I feel like the Lions are good at doing that. They're good at controlling the game, like you were saying earlier, and they run the ball really efficiently with both of their backs, Sonic and Knuckles. And the Bills have been shown to be kind of a run funnel, as we talked about previously. And if the Bills continue to play that way, I think that could go in the Lions' favor, doing what they do best, run the ball, control the clock. The Rams had the ball for 17 more minutes than the Bills last game. I know it was still a close game, but they did a great job of keeping it out of Josh Allen's hands for as long as they could. So that is why I lean towards the Lions. The Lions are also at home, and they've had a really great season. So
yeah, their home record. They just find ways to win, and I mean,
they
with
do.
Dan Campbell's aggressiveness, the only way you can really bank on him, them not being able to put up plenty of points on the board is just if those fourth downs don't convert like they have been. So if there's any sort of regression to the mean in regards to those fourth down aggressive plays, then we can see the Lions falter here a little bit. But even with the Rams keeping the Bills off the field, we still saw Josh Allen, again, go full Superman mode.
Superman.
And when we look at the numbers here, I mean, the Lions are 4th overall in EPA per play on the offensive side of the ball, 5th overall in EPA per play allowed. The 5th overall EPA per play, they were top 3 most of the regular season, and that number's kind of slipped a little bit just due to their late performances, mostly due to injuries, so we would expect that. Bills are 1st overall in EPA per play on the offensive side of the ball. They're also 13th overall in success rate in the offense. To me, man, it's going to be a fun game, and then trying to pinpoint exactly what's going to happen in this is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. But one thing I do know for sure is that the Lions are going to have a tough time stopping Josh Allen because there's so many different people that they distribute the ball to in the passing game. Their running backs are phenomenal. Had a great year for James Cook. Ray Davis has really come onto the scene. And even Ty Johnson is really getting into the mix, not to even mention Josh Allen's legs. So really unpredictable, especially for a defense that has a lot of new faces, that doesn't really see the field a lot. So this game is going to really come down to the Lions offense and if they can capitalize against this Bills defense, which just got tore up last week. So I think that's why I'm still confident in the Lions is because that defense is still susceptible to being carved up, especially in the running game. I know one thing that we were talking about before the show was Buffalo's rushing defense is not the greatest. They give up 140 yards per game on the ground. So I do like Sonic and Knuckles to be able to carve them up here. I like what the model has to say about this game. I think the Lions win in a close one.
Give me a last-second field goal, just like last week.
Okay. I mean, it very well could be.
It could.
It's got that type of that feel to it, and I think everybody's going to be tuning into that particular game. So I'm certainly excited for it. I'll be watching it. So okay. Moving on. We're moving quick here. Trying to be efficient with our time. Steelers go to Philadelphia and play the Eagles. Eagles are -5 right here in the spot at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Totals around 47.5. 42.5, I believe. A little high for that number. Model has it as 17-22 in favor of the Eagles, so right around the Vegas spread as well. So nothing to really take away from there. BJ, we're kind of in the same boat here. You do have the Eagles winning. I have the Steelers winning with one conditional. The status of George Pickens is really going to, sway my thought process here either way, or if they can get Mike Williams, ramped up in this offense and get going. Obviously Pickens, still ambiguous with his status. He's got a hamstring injury. They're still evaluating it and if he'll be ready heading into this game and, is as chaotic of a player as he can be. He's so extremely important to that offense and Russell Wilson in the passing game. So a lot hinging there. But first of all, we just, there's a couple narratives to this game before we even get into the numbers. So first of all, A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts apparently have this beef going on. We saw Brandon Graham take it to the podcast talking about how they, were friends. Now they're not, and it's strictly professional. Probably something that should have stayed in-house, if we're being totally honest. But so seems to be some underlying drama. Eagles passing game obviously isn't performing up to par. And I think A.J. Brown's been a bit vocal about it. Rushing game, no problem. Saquon's having a career year, setting all sorts of franchise records for the Eagles. Totally fine there. But the passing game is struggling a little bit. So that's something that we'll be monitoring and watching. Interesting note, A.J. Brown was bitching about not getting the ball in 2022 around the same time. He had a career game against the Steelers with 3 total touchdowns in a same spot. Go. So just dropping some facts there. But as for the Steelers, they're still fighting to stay atop of the division. They're still coming in here to try and knock off the Eagles. But are you worried about the narrative at all with A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts? Are you still confident that Eagles can handle business at home? I mean, that might play more of a role than we even know.
Yeah, I think the reason the pass game has been less efficient, right? And I can understand because I was watching some videos on Twitter of A.J. Brown being open in the middle of the field. I can understand that, but they've been able to run the ball so great that they almost haven't had to throw the ball. So I kind of will understand it with that. I think it could be an issue though going forward. I mean, the Steelers have a great defense, and if they aren't able to run the ball real well, I mean, they could have some problems. Unless on the flip side of AJ, the last time AJ Brown was bitching that he comes out and has 1,000,000 yards and 7 touchdowns.
Yeah,
But
I mean, who knows?
We'll have to see. I do like the Eagles to win at home. I do think it'll be really close. I know we're talking about the Tomlin underdog aspect. The Steelers have had a great season this year, and
the Tomlin underdog thing is not something to to just brush by. It's such a real thing. I mean, he is week in, week out. He overperforms in areas where he's expected to underperform, and sometimes he underperforms in areas when he's expected to overperform. And so that's just the nature of this team. So it's kind of like a immovable object against an unstoppable force when you talk about TJ Watt and Cam Hayward going directly at one of the best offensive lines in the NFL here. So that's going to be a pivotal thing for this game that it's going to hinge on is, how much pressure can the Steelers defensive line get against the Eagles passing game that's already kind of struggling. And so if they can succeed in that and cause a bit of a blunder in the backfield for Jalen Hurts, get him off tempo, I mean, it can be tough sledding for the Eagles. And so you can't just strictly be one-dimensional on the offensive side of the ball, no matter how good Saquon Barkley is playing. I mean, they're he's going torched earth on the ground. So if you look at the Philadelphia offense, I mean, they're 6th overall in rushing yards per game. Saquon's averaging like over 100 yards rushing game on the ground. So nearly 5 yards per carry. It's amazing what he's doing. But again, this league has shown that you can't be one-dimensional and still beat great teams.
Right.
You can do it here and there, but you can't consistently be successful as a one-dimensional offense. So that'll be the narrative here. I'm not going to say that, one way or another, there's no way to know truly what's going on in the Eagles locker room. They're still a phenomenal team in the NFL. I mean, they're 11-2 for Christ's sake. So there's not much that you can say bad about this team, but it's just, is the drama going to get to him? Is the bitching and complaining about not getting the ball going to get to him? Or are they going to go out there, handle business, and, do what they need to do to win this football game? So I think they can, but I still like the Steelers to keep it close. Do you think this offense on the Steelers side of the ball can do well enough to keep it close?
That's a difficult
without George
question.
Pickens, especially
without George Pickens, that's a really difficult question. That'll have to be up to Mike Tomlin overperforming because I'm not sure who they're going to get the ball to at that point. I mean, you can go Freiermuth over the middle of the field a couple times. The running game is not explosive. It's not bad, but it's not explosive. I don't know who they're going to throw the ball to otherwise. Unless they're going to have a career Mike Williams game. I don't know.
The good thing for the Steelers is that without Brandon Graham, their pass rush has declined a little bit. It's not horrible, but it's not what it used to be, especially to start off the year. So Russell Wilson still may have some time to let things develop as long as his offensive line holds up. So that's a matchup I'll be watching as well. Can the Eagles' defensive line generate pressure against Russell Wilson, or is he going to have to kind of get the ball out quick here? And so that's a big thing for that game as well. It's going to be ugly, but it's going to be a huge game for both teams. Yeah, I mean, the Eagles are still technically fighting for a 1 seed. I know Detroit's kind of got it in the bag, so they say, but they're really only 1 game behind if you look at it. So a couple mishaps with the Lions. They do play one of the best teams in the league this week, so they very well could lose that game. And the next thing you know, the Eagles, they win this game. Both teams are at 12-2. And there's no telling what happens. It's the NFL, So still a lot to play for both teams. And I think the Steelers also want to hold a top of their division as well. That's a tough division. So
We need to.
I like the Steelers to cover. I even potentially like them to win outright if they have all of
Pickens
their
is there.
weapons.
Yeah.
If Pickens is there, but if not, it could be tough sledding for that offense. And then I think the Eagles could definitely secure this win here, but it could be ugly given the nature and the drama of the offense as well. So we'll see.
We'll see.
Guys, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop your favorite picks for the big game slate this week. We love checking that information out. Also, the show is brought to you by Not Beer, American Sparkling Water. Never a bad time to have a Not Beer. You can drink it outright, or you can mix it with your favorite drinks. Never a bad time to have a Not Beer. So make sure to check the comments for links to those. All right. BJ.
Harrison.
Rams travel to the 49ers. Both teams coming off of wins last week. Rams coming off with one of their best wins in recent memory, past year, 2 years. They beat the Bills. They hung 40. Both receivers were heavily active in this game. Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua just going off. Matthew Stafford looking like vintage Matt Stafford. Kyron Williams punching it in twice. Running game looks clean. Sean McVay was absolutely dialed in calling the plays. 49ers, they handled business against the Bears. They kind of look like a, old version of themselves, let's call it. Still some drama there, obviously, with Debo. He's bitching and complaining about the ball, similar to AJ Brown on Twitter, saying not struggling, just not getting the ball enough. And then he got community noted, and it said he's first on the team in drops, and he has the second most touches on the team. So it's
he's just Juwan's better. He's just Juwan's better.
Juwan is better.
That's all.
That's a fact. Juwan is certified dog, and wide receiver 1. So take it to the bank. 49ers 2.5-point favorites in this game. The total is at 49.5. So Vegas thinks there's going to be some points scored in this one. 49ers are 6-7. The Rams are 7-6. So Rams are 1 game behind the Seahawks. 49ers are 2 games behind, but division is messy. So not only are teams desperately trying to claw for a wild card in this division, but it's not so far extremely out of sight that they could also maybe get the division. Seahawks have a relatively tough schedule to end the season, so they could fall. Same with the Cardinals. Cardinals are 6-7. I mean, who knows? So that division is a complete mess. There's still plenty to play for both of these teams. Now, they don't control their own destiny. They're going to need some favors from other teams, but still, this game has playoff implications written all over it. So, BJ, you like the 49ers to win and cover here. You're confident that they can hold tight and hold firm against this 49 or Rams team. Rams offense that just had a phenomenal outing. I like the Rams in this game. I do like the matchup for the 49ers. I will say that. But one of the key things here is who's going to run the football for him? I know Patrick Taylor is on the team, but who else? I mean, this guy is just off the street, and now he's going to be their starting running back. So how confident are you in this offense to generate plays?
Yeah, that's what I was waiting on. Who is going to run the ball? The question of the week. Now, it's Tuesday when we're filming this, so a lot of things could happen. They could put Debo's complaining about the ball, put him in the backfield. Handoffs are easier than – you can't drop a hand. Well, you could drop a handoff. Patrick Taylor, I don't even know who else they have. Are they on their 5th running back? Is Patrick Taylor their 5th running back so far this year?
Let's see, they had McCaffrey, Mason, Garindo, and now it'll be Taylor.
It's so unlucky. Tell you one thing I am confident in. I don't know who's going to be running the ball for them. I am confident in the Kyle Shanahan scheme. This is McVay versus Shanahan, right? It's one of our favorite matchups, and unfortunately, both teams are underperforming this year. It's sad. However, it's still a McVay-Shanahan matchup, a chess match, if you could say that. And the 49ers really looked like they started clicking last week. I know they played the Bears, but I think the Rams are the worst rushing defense in yards per game in the league, and I'm confident in the Shanahan scheme to do that. We will see if they have any sort of athletes run the ball behind that scheme.
So you're telling me Patrick Taylor is going to come off the street and run for 100+ against the Rams?
I'm saying he could.
Well,
I'm saying he could.
I'm just saying what you're implying here. The Rams do, in fact, they give up an average of 158 yards per game on the ground. Just looking at these numbers, they are dead last in rushing yards per game allowed. They're 25th overall in rushing yards per attempt allowed at 4.8. So
I'll tell you
numbers
this.
align.
Patrick Taylor might not do it, but combined as a team, 150 yards on the ground. Combined on a team. Don't know who it's going to be. Combined as a team,
your hedge there.
150 on the ground.
Okay.
And if that is the case, which is what they give up 150 on the ground for this Shanahan run game, and they will cover the 2 or the 2.5, whatever it is, and they'll win this game.
Shit, for all we know, Debo's going to be the starting running back.
That could be pretty exciting.
It could be. It could be great for my fantasy team if he actually started doing something.
He could go for 150 by himself against the league's worst rush defense. He definitely could.
I mean, this 49ers team is still not bad. I mean, they're top 12 in EPA per play on the offensive side of the ball. They're 14th overall in EPA per play allowed, median adjusted. So, I mean, they can still play. They can still hang. They've had a bad stroke of luck a little bit, especially with injuries and just the way the games have played out. You also look at the kicking woes that have really affected them more than people even like to admit. Jake Moody's had a really, really bad year. So still really, really good. I mean, 8th overall in success rate on the offensive side of the ball. They're still consistently great between the 20s. Now, finding the end zone, capitalizing on defense, that's been another struggle. So I still think that the San Francisco offense and team as a whole can get it. Now, can they stop this Rams offense? 2nd overall in offensive success rate for the Rams. You look at their EPA, they're 13th overall in EPA per play on the offensive side of the ball. Now, to your point, the hole in this matchup here is the Rams defense. It's trended upwards since the start of the season, but still, statistically speaking, they give up a lot, and some of those numbers were skewed from last game and what Josh Allen was able to do. But nonetheless, they have a young team, some raw talent out of their rookies, namely Jared Verse. But still, young team, they're hemorrhaging yards, they're hemorrhaging points as well. So if the San Francisco offense can figure it out one way or another, that's their game plan. That's their leverage into winning this game. So I'm still not confident that the 49ers are going to figure everything out and coming here and go scorched earth against this Rams defense. I do like the Rams to win. I like the fact that McVay and Stafford are cooking on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, all of their weapons on the offensive side of the ball are healthy now. The San Francisco defense is exploitable. They're middle of the tier on EPA. You can absolutely run the football against them, and it's not like they generate a bunch of pressures with Nick Bosa being out. So I like the Rams to win. I think it's going to be a really close one. I think it's going to be a little slower scoring than people think. But BJ, you like the 49ers to win. Any last comments on this game? It's going to be a fun one.
The only thing I'll say is Matthew Stafford has never not been in his prime, and he elevates the whole team. He's been in his prime indefinitely. So, you could paint either way. I mean, I'd lean a little bit towards 49ers being at home also, but, Stafford could easily put up another 40 plus.
Yeah. Dude,
it'll be a good one though.
He's phenomenal. You can always bank on him throwing at least one interception a game, but he can also easily go scorched earth on any defense, any given Sunday. So
it's true.
Hey, that's our Thursday night game. So
that'll be a great Thursday night game.
Thursday night has been generous to us.
Have you watched the Next Gen Prime cast?
Oh yeah, that's all I watch.
It's so cool.
It's so like they put it in Madden view, so I feel like I'm like
they highlight the skill players and like the routes and stuff. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. The machine learning thing where they predict like who's going to blitz. I love that.
It's pretty awesome.
It's a thing. It's our thing. It's what we love. Okay. I feel like I'm working out. Packers go to Seahawks. Seahawks coming off of a phenomenal division win. Now that they get to host the Packers. Packers are coming off of a tough loss. They did have a mini bye since they were playing on Thursday Night Football last week. So a bit of an extended rest period for them, which will bode well. But Seahawks +3 home underdogs in the 12th man, 46.5 point total. So kind of middle of the pack there. The model has this game 21.5 to 18.5. So it sees the same 3-point number, a little bit lower scoring than Vegas has it. But same spread nonetheless. BJ, you're kind of particular on this one here. You like the Packers to win, but you like the Seahawks to cover, or at least push.
At least push, yeah.
I do like the Seahawks to win outright. So let's talk about this a little bit. BJ, you like the Packers here. Now, I 100% agree with you. I think they are a top 8 team in the league. You know, they're going to be contenders in the playoffs, absolutely, to make a push for the NFC and make it to the Super Bowl and contend for the Super Bowl. I 100% believe that out of the Packers. Now, that being said, all teams in the NFL are suspect of being beat. You know, no team has shown or proven to be unbeatable. There's weaknesses. Even the teams like the Chiefs and the Lions, we've seen them almost, you know, drop. You know, they both have one loss, but we've seen them cut close, especially the Chiefs. But even the Lions, you know, against the Bears, they were suspect to a loss right there. But Seahawks +3, I like them in the spot because they're at home. Now, if you look at the numbers, when you first look at them, especially from a season-long perspective, you're like, oh, that's not that great. But they've trended so much better. So right now they're sitting around 9th, 10th overall on EPA per play allowed on the defensive side of the ball. That number, you know, was bottom third. They were in the low 20s, you know, earlier this season. And so they have trended upwards, especially after their bye. The Seahawks defense is playing so much better. So much better. So I think at home in a spot like this, they're going to come ready to play, especially against a great team like the Packers. I think Geno is going to show up as well. But on the contrary, let's talk about the Packers. I know there's a couple things you wanted to say about them. This offense is fully healthy. From what it seems like, Josh Jacobs is rolling right now. I mean, they're second overall in rushing yards per game, averaging nearly 145 yards per game. Yards per game on the ground. And this defense is starting to step it up a little bit. You look at their numbers, they're 8th overall in EPA per play allowed. So you can easily paint a picture, especially statistically speaking, of why you like the Packers here. But elaborate a little bit. The Packers are going into the 12th man.
Mm-hmm.
Are you confident they can overcome that, make big plays against this emerging Seahawks defense?
Sorry. See, seems like the Packers' identity currently is Josh Jacobs, you know, and they're very good at that. They're very good at that, second overall in the league and rushing yards a game. They're able to do that, mix the backup backs in there. And on the contrary to that, Seattle is like top in attempts, yards, everything for passing the ball. So it's two type of different identities in this game. And that's why I like the Seahawks to cover, because I feel like there's going to be more opportunity for Seattle to have the ball and have those explosive passing plays based on the Packers wanting to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I still think the Packers are a better team. And I think the Packers are going to find a way to win this game, but I do think it is really close. And, you know, the Seahawks could win. You know, I'm taking the, you know, cover the points right there. They definitely could. I think it's very difficult to play at 12th man. So I think the Packers are the better team. That's why I have them winning, but more confident in the Seahawks covering here, based on game styles and kind of how the possessions will go in that direction.
So, yeah, I mean, for the Seahawks, you know, talking about them, one thing that they've gotten really, you know, significantly better at comparatively to the earlier in the season, not just on the defense side of the ball, but on the offensive side of the ball, or excuse me, on the defense side of the ball, is generating pressures. You know, they've gotten so much better. They average nearly 10 quarterback pressures a game now on the defensive side of the ball. And that number was around 6 or 7 to start the year. So that pass rush is starting to ramp it up a little bit. And so the, you know, Green Bay offense is pretty good about not allowing too many quarterback pressures. You know, they only average nearly 6. So really solid, but especially in the 12th man where things are going to be chaotic a little bit, I do like the Seahawks to maybe exploit a really good, you know, Packers offensive line. It is as contradictory as that sounds. I think that a team that relies on that facet of their game, if they get blown up a little bit, I think that's when things can start breaking. And, you know, I think they're not going to be able to lean on Jacobs like they have been, to your point.
Yeah.
You know, that one thing their defense has been good is flipping the field. And I think that now the offense for the Seahawks is good enough. They are in, you know, and have great chemistry with each other. They're in cohesion, especially with the emergence of JSN at receiver. I don't think they're going to allow the Packers to flip the ball or to flip the field as easily as the Packers have been. You know, they're not going to, I think they're going to limit the Packers touches in plus territory on the offensive side of the ball here. I really do like the emergence of the Seahawks defense right now, especially going up. I think it's going to be a close game. Not that many points scored in this game, but I think the Seahawks are going to steal a win at home. So
that would be awesome. It's really cool to see this team progress under Ryan Grubb. Just watch their offense kind of progress as the season goes on, and it's cool. I mean, they're firing at the right time for sure.
Yeah, and I was skeptical about Ryan Grubbs there for the start of the season. I mean, he was using JSN in the same exact way that Shane Waldron was using him, limiting his potential. The offense was just not performing. We've seen Geno Smith, take this offense to new heights, but it seemed like it was just stuck in the mud. So I really like where they're at now, especially on the defense side of the ball, though. I think Mike Macdonald has really done a lot with very little. They don't have guys on defense like some of these other teams do. So for how much they've progressed and trended upward at the end of the season, that's a testament to Mike Macdonald and the job he's done from a coaching perspective. So
just wait till he does get his guys. Wait till he does get some players in there.
I know. We need to do it quick while Geno is still kicking it. So, Okay, Dolphins travel to Houston, play the Texans. Texans are coming off of a bye last week. 1 second. Technical difficulties. Texans are 8-5 here. Dolphins are 6-7. Dolphins with a exciting win against the Jets last week out of overtime. They really needed that to stay alive. So they are still somewhat afloat for the wild card race this year. So they basically have to win out. They needed some favors, but they have to win out, and that's what they're going to try and do. And so this Texans team, 8-5, coming off of a bye, in theory they should be ready, and we expect them to be ready, but they've struggled. The CJ Stroud that we've been watching this year is not the same CJ Stroud we watched last year. I think it is safe to say that he is absolutely in a sophomore slump. I mean, this offense, they're still 7th overall. This offense is only 22nd overall in EPA per play generated on the offensive side of the ball. They were a top 10 team in that facet last year. So they've dropped off. And, they're 26th overall on offensive success rate as well. Not good for the Houston offense, but they can still, score points, certainly. Their guys are getting healthy again. They now have Nico Collins and Tank Dell back on the field. Joe Mixon, obviously the reemergence of him has been huge and monumental for this Texans offense, and that really is their engine right now. So Dolphins, Tua's back in stride. Tyreek is seemingly getting his game back a little bit. We saw a lull out of him midseason, especially when Tua was out. But this offense seems to have its groove back. We're hoping that the defense can also stay upright. They're not the best unit, but they can definitely play ball. It's going to be a good one. Right now, our model has the Texans 21.5 to the Dolphins 19. So, with Texans at 3-point spread here, BJ, you like the Texans to win and cover. I also like the Texans to win and cover, but I think that the Dolphins are going to give their absolute best here.
Yeah.
So I think they absolutely can win. There's a couple of things that we think that can go wrong for the Dolphins and for the Texans, but right now let's talk about the Dolphins. What's their path to success here to win this game and stay afloat in the playoff race? What do you think?
Yeah, it's really interesting. The Texans have a really good passing defense on the season. So do the Dolphins, but the Dolphins have such a different way of their pass game. We were talking about it before the show started too. It gets the ball out really quick, and they're able to get it into their playmakers' hands for run after catch opportunities. And you had mentioned also that, something that makes the Texans pass defense so good is their pass rush. Well, if Tua gets it out in 1 second, it eliminates that pass rush. And so that is how I believe the Dolphins can end up winning this game. I am on the Texans. And I think that you could paint it whichever way you want. This is an indoor game. This game was really difficult for me to pick. But I think that's the way the Dolphins can win this one. Any comments on that strategy?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that the way that the Dolphins run their offense and operate their offense mitigates a lot of what the Texans defense does, to find success against other offenses. They really rely on their pass rush, which is a phenomenal pass rush. And given if Will Anderson's back and then Danielle Hunter on the other side of that, they're going to try and get after Tua. But the fact that Tua gets the ball out at an extremely fast rate, they dink and dunk, use the screen game, use the RPO game to kind of mitigate the pass rush there. It could be tough sledding for this, Dolphins defense. Now, in the instance that they don't find success, like the Dolphins offense can't really capitalize and that facet of their game and the quick screens and the dump offs and the get their playmakers the ball and let them run. If the Texans can, contain that and play and basically have every guy do their job, they're winning this game. And so that's really what it's taking. They can't let guys like Tyreek and Devon Achane and Jalen Waddle get loose. They can't let Jonnu Smith catch all of these stick routes and mesh routes and, let them run for 10 more yards. So if they can do their job, play contain, I think the Texans can win this game. I'm hoping, and the optimism is that coming off of a bye week, their offense is going to be looking better. Guys are going to have rest, guys like Joe Mixon, Nico Collins. And that, I'm hoping that we've seen Nico Collins for the past few weeks, and he's kind of brought life a little bit back into the passing game, and I hope that it takes the next level. I think that's the key here is, use guys like Tank and Nico in the passing game, leverage the passing game, let it open up the run game for Mixon, and get the engine of your offense and Joe Mixon running the ball. And honestly, just let CJ Stroud do less. Take some stuff off of CJ Stroud's plate and let everybody else do the work. Let the offense do the work. We know Bobby Slowick is a great play caller. So I think that if he lets CJ Stroud do less, take more off of his plate, and let the playmakers do the playmaking, I think that's the key to success here for the Texans. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited to see how Joe Mixon is off the bye. I feel like he was kind of getting run down a little bit. So with that extra rest, I'm hoping that he can, remain or come back to form from the earlier in the season. And the box score does not show what Nico Collins has been doing. He had a 70-yard touchdown called back for penalty and like a 33-yard called back for penalty. He caught it over the middle of the field. So dude is insane.
He is phenomenal.
He's so good. So with him coming off the bye, having a little bit of rest, I really think that they can make some really explosive plays here.
I love it. So that'll be fun too, because that's a playoff game for the Dolphins in essence. They have to win out.
Every game's a playoff game for the Dolphins.
So I love that though. I love the pressure of those games. So
yeah.
Okay, hey, last one that we have on the docket here. Bucs travel to the Chargers. Chargers are 3-point home favorites. Totals sitting around 46.5. Chargers coming off of a brutal loss, doink by the Chiefs. So some more voodoo magic out of the Chiefs, let's call it. But they were missing Ladd McConkey, so that was a huge blow to their offense, especially given that the rest of their pass-catching core is buns, Quentin Johnson.
And they can't run the ball.
Do anticipate, J.K. Dobbins is also out for the year, so
I guess Edwards running the ball.
It sucks, but anyway, I do anticipate them potentially having Ladd McConkey back, which will be a huge upgrade to this offense, given that they just need somebody they can trust in the passing game, plain and simple. So I do anticipate them getting back. I think that's actually why they didn't play him last week against the Chiefs, just to lock him in for this upcoming game against the Bucs. Model has this game as a pick even. Just put it plain and simple. BJ, you like the Bucs to cover and win outright? I like the Chargers to cover and win.
Ooh.
I do think it's going to be a close game. You never want to count Baker Mayfield out. This offense with some of the younger guys, especially getting in the mix, like Jalen McMillan, kind of coming onto the scene here. So they look competent again. Guys like Bucky Irving, Jalen McMillan, and then of course you have Mike Evans back and healthy. So this Bucs offense is still humming, but you got to talk about the Chargers defense as well. They're third in the league in median adjusted EPA per play allowed. So this defense is still stout. Still super stout. So it's going to be one of the toughest tests for Baker Mayfield and company for an offense that is averaging they're fifth overall in the league in EPA per play. So again, I always use this term, but it's fun, immovable object versus unstoppable force. That's essentially what this is in Chargers defense and Bucs offense. So that's the key matchup here, just from a high level overview. But one of the things that the Bucs have done well is, of course, they're passing the ball really well. That's not something that is, hidden. But one thing they're also doing really well now is rushing the football extremely well. And that's something that the Chargers don't necessarily give up quite often. The Chargers defense is only giving up 97 yards per game on the ground. That's good for sixth best in the league. So Bucky Irving has a chance to kind of break down this Chargers defense. I think that'll be the key is, can they exploit a Chargers defense in an area where they really kind of just bank on always, shutting the running game down and forcing the issue and forcing teams to beat them in the air. And now the Bucs are certainly good enough to beat them in the air, but at the same time, if you make them one-dimensional, it's going to be harder for the Bucs to win this game. So I like the Chargers here. I do like them because I do think they get Ladd McConkey back. And we just talked about the Charger defense and the Bucs offense, but let's talk about the Bucs defense as well here for a minute. Gotten better over the past few weeks, but they're still 20th overall in EPA per play allowed on the defensive side of the ball. Still very much exploitable in the passing game and even in the running game too. So that's my area of concern for the Bucs here. That's where I think that the Chargers are going to go into this game and they're going to take advantage of that. So, you can make the case for either which way, but that's kind of the picture that I paint here. I love the way that the Chargers are playing the game right now. They're extremely well coached. If they can just get a little bit more out of the playmakers that they have available, I think this game is easily handled by the Chargers at home. Bitch, you like the Bucs here. What about this matchup? You like the Bucs to take home the victory?
We talked about it earlier. You can't win games. You can't beat good teams if you're one-dimensional. And I really worry about the Chargers running the ball for the rest of the year. Regardless of who they play. It's really difficult for me to have a positive outlook on this Chargers rushing game. If I was John Harbaugh, I would Jim Harbaugh, right? Did I get my John and Jim mixed up?
Jim.
Yeah. If I was Jim, I would not run the ball a single time. I would let Justin Herbert throw the ball every single time.
Yeah,
because I don't trust the Bucs are beatable on the in the secondary, and their pass defense is not great. So I would let Justin Herbert tear that apart. I don't think Jim will do that. I think Jim will still try to run the ball, and they're not good at that anymore. So that is where I trust this Bucs offense a lot. I trust Baker. Regardless of who he's got out there, they've been running the ball a lot better. Now, I think Bucky is doubtful.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Even though, unless they
didn't. Yeah, I mean, the Chargers offense is nothing to reign home about either. I mean, they're 15th overall, so middle of the pack in EPA per play allowed. They're 24th overall in total EPA. So they run a slow offense. They're middle of the tier in terms of explosive plays, just more so given the nature of the lack of playmakers they have available to generate those explosive plays, especially with J.K. Dobbins going down. So that's a huge dink for the Chargers as well. But I like the idea of them going into this game and just grinding out a win, especially a defensive win. So I look what they did in Arrowhead and just took down Kansas City to the wire in a low-scoring boxing match, essentially. And I think that they could potentially force the issue here at home, nonetheless. So, you mentioned that Bucky Irving is in fact hurt. I'm operating under the assumption that he'll play, but say he doesn't. I mean, I think that's a bigger hit than people like to even think for this Buccaneers offense. But I got to give credit to Baker Mayfield. He is having an outstanding year. I mean, you can make the case, that he is playing at a top 5, level quarterback right now. There are other guys that I think that obviously other people would take to want to play for their team, but statistically speaking and underlying metrics are pointing to Baker Mayfield playing at an extremely elite caliber right now. So it's going to be a fun game. And it'll really come down to how well can the Chargers defense uphold against this Bucs offense, and then can the Chargers do what they can to exploit a not so great Bucs defense? Can the playmakers on the Chargers, we'll call them playmakers, quote unquote, Can they do just enough to capitalize against this bad Bucs defense? I think they can, but you can certainly make the argument that they can't.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a fun game nonetheless. The model has a pick 'em right now, so it's going to be close. It's going to be close. Guys, we appreciate you watching. We will be back here next week for NFL Week 16, and of course, we will be breaking down each one of the playoff games as well. That's the best time of the year for us.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be back here soon. Talk to you guys later.